swinging here in the garage. The day after, I had a pretty good day flipping boat docks in early October fishing here in Minnesota. So as an intro to this video, we'll get into the fish catches and show you some of those, but I want to kind of show you my setup first. In Minnesota, late September, early October is a great time for flipping shallow wood cover boat docks and things like that with jigs. And so my main setup was this Dobyns Extreme 705C 7-foot rod. So it's just for me long enough that I can really get good hook sets and handle those fish, but it's 7 feet short enough that I can really pitch and roll cast and skip a jig really well. I get a lot of questions about skipping boat docks. That's probably a whole other video to really break down the tutorial on that, but there'll be some footage in there where you can kind of see some of the forward motions and side motions and roll casts, and it's really all about the wrist. So if you want to study those, and then hopefully I'll do another video on that someday. But so 7-foot 5-power rod. I like the 5-power rod. I use 20 to 22 pound fluorocarbon, so I like that 5-power rod to really get a good hook set, because a lot of times when you're flipping under boat lifts and under weird places on boat docks, you don't always have the best angle when you set the hook. You can't get the perfect hook set. So I think that 5-power rod is super important to get good hook sets and get those big fish when you get big bites out of those docks. So that's why I go with the 705C. I like a nice good quality bait caster. This happens to be the new Chronarch CR4 high speed 7:6:1 gear ratio. Really helps you catch up to those fish if they dart off or come towards you. React to those bites quickly, get a good hook set, get them fish on and out of there. So that's the rod and reel. Yesterday I predominantly flipped a 3/8 ounce BassTEK tungsten flipping jig, which is my jig of choice. Sometimes I go heavier, but day in and day out I like the 3/8 ounce jig. This one's actually, you can see there ain't much left of the skirt. It's about to fall apart. I caught so many fish on it yesterday, it's pretty worn out. So we'll tie up a new one here just so you can see. But that one pretty worn out. Got a lot of fish on that. But you know, that's probably at least 30 fish worth of abuse, and it's still holding up. So, but I like the 3/8 because it seems to skip better. So whenever I can throw a 3/8, I usually throw a 3/8. If it's really windy, I might bop up to a 1/2 ounce jig, like this Okeechobee trout here. Or if I'm around an area where there's a lot of pads and other stuff, like heavy clumps of weed where I want that heavier jig to pick those apart as I go by, then I'll make the 1/2 ounce work under boat docks as well. So, so here's another black, brown, green pumpkin 3/8 ounce jig, which is what I was using yesterday. So how do I get a jig ready to fish dock? There isn't too much to do. These jigs come pretty much the way I like them. A couple modifications I do. The skirt comes reasonably short. Typically what I do, just to make it a little more compact, I'll kind of just shorten it up a little bit and kind of give it kind of a V, kind of like that, so that it kind of poofs up a little more. You see how those skirts kind of come up and gives a little more of a bluegill profile, I think. The other thing I do is grab a chunk sling, which I have on this jig and I have on this other older jig, and I'll just pop this off so you can see it better. But basically, this BassTEK Jig sling, which is just this little piece of plastic here, doesn't look like much, but saves me a ton of time. I don't have to fix my trailer, makes my trailers last longer, so it actually saves money. So you take this little deal and you slide it up on your hook. You push it right up past the barb. And so you end up with is this big loop like that up high on there. It also keeps your skirt up if you're a problem spec coming down. Gives you an extra place to hold a rattle. Works on any jig. And then I take you know, a regular chunk. Sometimes I like to cut down a creature bait. Another good option that I like to flip with the jig is the Compact Craw by Evolve. So I kind of like these smaller, simpler offerings for a couple reasons. I think they skip better, and they don't have a lot of appendages that interfere with when you're skipping and sliding it up under the dock and getting caught on things. So what I do is I take these craws or chunks and actually thread them up on the jig, so they slide right up, you know, behind the skirt, and they're right up tight against that little jig sling. And then you pull that jig sling up over the hook, and it locks your trailer on. So you can catch a lot of fish. You get those short striking bluegills, little bass. Pulling on that, your bait never moves, no matter how hard you skip it. Basically, you can use it until they pull the appendages off where you don't feel you're getting action anymore. So it saves you a ton of time. You never have to re-rig your bait on the cast, get pulled down by weeds, get pulled down by fish. Makes the trailers last longer. So it saves you money and time. So less time fixing your trailer, more time your jig's in the water means you're going to catch more fish. So you can check those out, the BassTEK Jig slings. Alright, so we're almost ready. The only thing else I do then is I take the weed guard, and I don't fan it, but I V it. So I kind of split it in half, and then I V my weed guard like that. So what I like about that is it kind of, when it compresses, it fully exposes the hook, but as it's coming, you know, into dock posts and along limbs and stuff, V'ing it out, it'll deflect the jig away from the hook point. So that's the way I typically get my jig ready. So shorten the skirt a little bit, put a jig sling on it, slide the trailer up on the hook, lock it in place, nice and compact, skips really well, still has a big enough profile to catch big fish. As you'll see in the video, there's a couple of good 5-pounders in the video. Now I guess all I have to do is tie it on. So like I said before, I like fluorocarbon. I know a lot of people like braid, kind of your own preference, up to you. And then the knot that I tie for fluorocarbon usually is the double San Diego jam knot. So it's a really strong knot. Let's move this out here. And pretty simple once you get the hang of it. You can find all kinds of videos on how to tie this out on the internet, but I'll just tie it quick here. And that you get 2 loops of line through your hook eye. It's a very strong knot. It's pretty compact, but you do get 3 tag ends, which is a little bit different. So that freaks a little bit some people out, but that's the way it's supposed to go. So you end up with a loop and a tag end. So you just have to cut those off nice and tight. But that's my knot of choice when flipping heavy cover and heavy fluorocarbon. So that's the setup. We'll get into the fishing now. You can see the fish catches. Got a few on the compact craw, a few on this little jig chunk. Overall, it's a really good fishing day. So check out the fish catches.